Happy anniversary, Yes Also Pod. That's right, it's been an entire year of having amazing conversations with some of the world's best comedians and improvisers, and we are so grateful to you for listening. To celebrate and to launch into our second Beats with vigor, we are offering a little promotion for $2 off your first month's subscription when you sign up by April 15th. Just use promo code SECONDBEATS, all one word, at checkout and you're good to go. Thank you so much to everyone for listening and subscribing over the last year. Your backline support has meant the world to us, and we're excited for all of the connections and group games to come. Was that too much? Too many improv? Somebody tag me out. Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Suzi Barrett, and this is a very special episode because we are celebrating 1 full year of doing this podcast. So to celebrate that milestone and do something a little bit different, we turned the tables and Ryan interviewed me. This intro feels super awkward because I'm talking about myself, but if I were a guest, I'd be like, oh, she did Herald teams at IO and UCB. She was a cast member at Boom Chicago for a few years. She does Comedy Bang Bang and ASCAT and Ben Schwartz and Friends. And she's a card-carrying member of the long-running UCB house team, Sentimental Lady. And speaking of that, there's a chapter in here where I talk about Sentimental Lady as a 7-person team. That's because during the era I was talking about, we were 7 people. But we are now 8 people strong and have been for years, and that is my very nerdy clarification. If you like this conversation and you want to hear more, part 2 is available at yesalso.supercast.com. And with that, we hope you enjoy this very special 1-year anniversary episode. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for supporting this podcast. We couldn't have done this without you. And now I take you to me.
Suzi Barrett.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here on your own podcast today.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, mine as well. I am, of course, the producer of this podcast normally, and you've heard me on the Q&As. My name is Ryan Rosenberg, and we're here interviewing our brilliant leader today, Suzi Barrett.
Thank you for calling me your brilliant leader.
You're welcome. Yes.
Yes, valued comrade.
Yes. I mean, I'm kidding, but for me, there is a little bit of that because you were like one of my first improv teachers in a serious way. You know, you go through the classes or whatever, but then outside of class, you sort of like take control of your own learning. And I feel like studying with you was one of my first. You are sort of the leader for me.
Was that practice group with Richie and all those guys? Yeah.
Yes, that practice group, which went right into boot camp, which was like the first thing of that style where you did improv every day with a good teacher. And so
you were in the very first boot camp cohort.
That's right.
You were, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, if you remember, the concept of that was, okay, Jim and I are going to hand pick our favorite people from all of our practice groups and make this group of 16 that are like all the people we like working with the most and see what kind of great work we can do if we meet every day. So you were hand selected.
You guys had great taste. That whole group was really fantastic. I feel so lucky to be a part of that group, and it's just part of my, way up now.
Yeah.
But let's talk about your way up, because that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
Say you're on this podcast.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start? Do you have stuff you brought in? Is it the origin story?
I do have one thing I brought in, or 2 things, but we can also talk origin story and all of that stuff.
Great. Let's start with your things.
What I brought?
Yeah.
I have been thinking so much lately that we spend all this time doing improv classes and shows and practices and all this stuff. And throughout that journey, we play with all different kinds of people and we work with all different teachers. But there's one consistent scene partner that we have the entire journey that nobody has been talking about, which is our brain. Our brain is the permanent teammate that we are yoked to for our entire creative existence. And I think that the same way that we learn to be kind and generous and understanding of our teammates in groups, we need to extend the same courtesy to our permanent teammate, our brain, and thus extend the same generosity and courtesy to ourselves. Because, our brain handles how many billions and trillions of tasks per second. And it's a computer that's beholden. It's a biological, physical, mechanical electrical computer that's handling so much, including our stresses and
and it's attached to your personality.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And so I think my current goal is to view things through that lens and be forgiving of myself and my brain. Like if I have an off night or a show where I'm like, why did I say that? Or like, why did I make that choice? Or there I go playing angry characters again. Rather than do that, I'm trying to view my brain as a scene partner and forgive it for making choices and go like, yeah, that's the way that scene went.
Yep.
And also, by the way, thank you for keeping my liver functioning. And thank you for knowing how to drive home tonight.
Keeping me standing on stage. I could have collapsed.
Yeah,
totally.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think about that separately from improv, just all the things our body is doing all the time. And then I go like, I gained 10 pounds. And my body's like, really? That's what you're going to gripe about?
Yeah.
You're alive and balancing and
They're like, you know why you gained 10 pounds? You almost died 2 weeks ago.
Right.
You just aren't aware of that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. We spiked your cortisol so that you could get out of the way of that speeding train. And the thanks we get is I'm fat.
Yeah. Your shirt is the problem. Yeah, totally. Well, that's why you're the host. That was an amazing first piece. I love that, being your own scene partner.
Yeah.
What like gets you thinking about that? What was sort of the impetus for like, was it a eureka moment or have you always sort of known it or?
No, it's been recent. It's been like in the last like maybe 6 months. I think like as I hear people on this podcast talking about like, I think imposter syndrome is a common thread and just realizing how many of us veteran improvisers who have been doing this for decades have bad shows or beat ourselves up or, you know.
Right.
And just personally, maybe it's post-pandemic. Like personally, I can just like get in a spiral about like, why did I make that choice in that show? And I don't want to be that. I don't want to do that. It's pointless.
Right.
And I over the years, I've gotten way better at it. That's the kind of stuff I used to like obsess about when I would have my one show a month at IO or like, you know, my class show at the end of 8 weeks. And I would just brutalize myself.
Because it has to go well.
Yeah.
Totally.
And those tiny mistakes stand out because it's like on the blank slate of nothing, you have this one dot. And then now you have to wait 2 more months till your next performance opportunity. And I just... things aren't like that in my life and in my performer life anymore. And it's certainly not how I see this art form and this like playground. So when I do find that voice popping up, I felt like I needed a framework to put it in that would recalibrate how I see it.
I love that.
And
you already
that.
have such a good framework of how to treat other people through improv. So you might as well. Totally.
And it's something we just kind of like we're not in the habit of, I think, consciously recognizing that like, yeah, we can be we can be the best improviser in the world. We are still beholden to how much sleep we got the night before and whether we had sugar in the afternoon and our dog that got taken to the vet. Like our brain is busy managing our lives and we're asking it to come up with funny ideas. And sometimes our brain doesn't want to be in the writer's room.
Totally.
Sometimes it's tired or stressed or whatever.
Right.
In a fallow creative period, which also happens.
Totally.
Like, do you hit improv slumps where like for a month you'll just kind of have a run of bad shows or things that feel not bad, but like you feel sticky in your brain?
Yeah, for me it'll be that I'll show up to the show and for some reason before the show I don't get those butterflies and I don't get like the excitement up and then I'm just sort of like passive and then have this idea that like, I don't know what to do. But like you're saying, it's like that's me being like, I don't know, I'm so dumb, I'm in a funk. And it's like, yeah, I guess if you tell yourself that before every show, it'll become true.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, like that's not really me being nice to myself. It's me sort of criticizing what's wrong with me rather than being like, oh, I've been in a bit of a funk. Today I'm going to, like you're saying, working on what's possible rather than just criticizing yourself.
And forgiving it if it's not there. Just like letting it be a wash. It's like, yep, yeah, my scene partner and I were like not firing on all cylinders that day, you know.
And it's already over. So what other option is there?
Yeah.
You can pretend you're fixing it by being mad, but it already happened and won't change. So it seems like such a good attitude to adopt because it's like the truth. Like we always have the future in front of us, but the past is gone.
Yeah.
So you might as well figure it out for next time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And P.S. time is a construct, and it all might be happening simultaneously anyway, and we simultaneously exist and don't exist.
We don't know. We may never know.
We may never know.
Yeah.
Or we may.
Or we may.
Or we may not.
Or we may already, and
Yeah.
Who knows? Well, that's beautiful. That's why you're the host of this show. I mean, that was so profound of like treating yourself like your first scene partner, you know?
Yeah.
You've heard that like psychology thing of like, hey, stop being mean to my friend. Like
Yeah.
when someone's talking negatively about themselves.
Yeah.
It's kind of that. Like you would never criticize your scene partner in
Right.
the way that you criticize yourself because you are you have integrity and like understand the creative support that is necessary.
Yeah.
So why not offer that to you?
And your brain is the one consistent teammate you will have for your entire life.
Right.
And it's integrating so much. Yeah.
How do you feel like your teammate has been playing with you recently? Do you feel like pretty in touch? Do you feel like you are...
I feel good. I feel like I'm constantly learning and relearning the lesson to just stay present and malleable and literally go with the flow. It sounds so basic, and I just, when it happens, I can feel that it has happened, and when it doesn't happen, I only feel it after the moment.
Yeah, of course.
Like after the scene or after the show.
Now.
Yeah.
Totally.
Then I go, man, I wasn't really in the moment. I was trying to wrestle the scene back to what I thought the point of the scene was. Or I was trying to push that agenda of the premise that I pulled. And when something fun emerged and it kind of wanted to evolve, I didn't let it evolve. I put a ceiling on it and kept it where I thought it needed to be boxed up.
Yep. That's such a good, interesting area because like in improv, the scene is alive. And you can't really be the one who decides how it is because you're only one of the pieces. So I love that attitude of like, I wasn't present for what was happening to everyone. I was just sort of... The control element seems very prescient to me.
Yeah.
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 Why do you think we try to control stuff so much on stage? Like,
I think it's like a method of like how we enact our understanding. Everything else in life operates that way. You learn how to do something, and then that's the way to do it. And in order to have success, you repeat that way.
predictable sort of,
Yeah.
right.
Every single thing we do, including relationships and things that aren't concrete, operate on that paradigm.
Right. Let's set a consistent thing so that we all don't have to like ask the question every day.
Yeah.
But in improv, it is constantly asking and answering questions.
And it's
constantly.
and it's constantly changing, and releasing control is the name of the game. And our scene partners are operating on, the thousands of years of evolution that dictate, no, when I look for a snake and I see the snake, I walk away from the snake so the snake doesn't kill me.
It was a rope the whole time, and the lights were just off. Yeah, totally.
So we're rewiring a lot. We're asking a lot of ourselves, and I think I personally am like someone who operates on more like control, or I'm more comfortable being the leader than the follower. I don't like change.
That's really funny because I have the same stuff, but I'm more comfortable being the follower. Like I feel more control going second and going like, whatever you're going to do, I'll position myself so that it works or whatever.
Cool.
But I think we both have the same need for the control of like, it's just how we're comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I would maybe feel like more in control in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
Because I'm being like, well, yeah, you're busy driving and I get to think about and do and plan everything else. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But so funny. But I feel so uncomfortable in that seat of like being at the wheel because then I can't help.
Yeah, and I think it depends. I think it's contextual for me. I think there are scenarios where I love when someone plans a trip and I'm like, cool, what are we doing today? I don't always need to be like the boss.
Yeah.
But I think like when I have an understanding of how something works, familiarity, I guess, is my friend.
Right.
And I've been wondering lately if that's an ADHD trait as well. Like I would rather keep my organization, the quote, organization the way it is in my house because it's familiar rather than change it to something that makes more sense and is more functional.
But it doesn't make more sense to me yet.
Right. And I don't have the vision or the wherewithal changing it would feel like someone ripping off my bed sheets at 4 a.m. It's like, no, this is cozy, so let's keep it. And then and I think with improv, so much is a wild card and so much is the unknown and so much can be like brain tilting that like having some type of roadmap or like train tracks feels comforting.
Well, we need it. If we're all going to improvise the same script, we have to go like, hey, this is at least the pages.
Yeah.
I don't know what's on them yet, but everyone look at these pages.
Yeah.
Rather than be like, no, I have the script. No, I have the script. It's like we all have to be part of the same script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the lesson I'm learning now is being more open and attuned to everyone's like script and idea, like in that nebulous top of scene or as things are shifting in a scene, being open to the new information coming in and being able to, like a school of fish, suddenly take a right turn if that's what the school is doing, rather than stick with what I thought it was going to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what an exercise, though. I mean, so difficult to be both smart enough to make up and know how something works and let go enough to be like, but it doesn't have to go my way. But I already get it and I already could just do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's frustrating for me.
Yeah.
Do you find that frustrating on stage?
Well, I find it's not intuitive for me. It's not instinctual. And like, I can think of just last week we were doing a Ben Schwartz show in Windsor, and there were some scenes where like during the scene, I was like, uh-oh, like I've let go of the rope. Like this feeling of like, uh-oh, I'm like free form, but the scenes turned out to be the most fun.
Yes.
And afterwards, I was like, God, that's how I should be playing all the time. Let go of the rope. Just like float in this ooze and see what comes up for you and everybody else.
Right.
Why are you so like myopically focused on this one aspect of the scene, you know?
I think it is, though, like you're such a good supportive teammate that it doesn't read as like control taking from other people. It's more like, hey guys, I'm trying to help us all.
It's not like I'm like bossing the scene around. But it's more like an internal mode of seeing it or feeling it. Like I feel like,
does it resonate with like safety or like security? Like
course.
I have to know what's going on because I'm the same way, and I think it is neurodivergent stuff where it's like I need concrete truth. Like I just need to know what we're talking about, and then I can participate. But if I'm foggy at all, I like really can't show up yet because I'm just like, I can't read the page yet.
Yeah, it's like this instinct where I think what I want, I think that what I want is to know the very next step so I know where we're headed, when what I really want or what I should want and what I'm learning that is better is to not know the next step.
Just to be okay where you already are.
Yes.
What if we don't take another step at all?
Exactly.
Yes.
And what if it's not steps? What if it changes?
What if we lay down?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
What if we literally stand still and stop talking? Is that okay?
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's that. That is the lesson that I am deeply embedded in right now.
Love that.
And I'm like learning it through practice. And it's very it's like sometimes it appears and I go, yes, okay, that was it. But it's hard to make it a conscious process.
Is there anything that you remember of one of those moments where it was like, oh, I'm right in the flow of it without trying?
Yeah, like there was this scene we in the opening interview, it was an amazing story. This woman talked about she's was a flight nurse in the Arctic Circle.
Whoa.
And we were in Canada, so she was like for a period of time worked like she was up on this glacier or something in the Arctic Circle and serving all of these different islands. And if someone had to have a baby or whatever, she would jump in this 2-seater plane and go fly to them and take care of them. Wow. And she, in the story, she was like, you know, the first place I went was Nunavut or whatever. And she was talking about like, I can't remember if she mentioned like the Nunavut flag, and we were all like, oh, of course. And it's like, you know, these are like places I've heard of only from the edges of the risk board, you know?
Right.
But I ended up initiating a scene that Ben was my scene partner in it, and I was like, I'm looking for a gift for a friend. Like, do you? I see you have every sports team here and all the paraphernalia. Do you happen to have a Ninurit flag? He was like, of course. I was like, oh God, and he was like, home or away colors. So he's like immediately like, yeah, we have it. And I was like, oh God, thank God. You're like the only place I've been. Yeah, home colors, please. He's like, great. Bear or no bear? You know, so we're getting into the minutia of this. And then he starts like boxing up the flag and handing it to me. And there was this moment in my head where it was like, oh no, but then what? If this is over, then what's the scene about?
Sure,
you know, like
right.
what else then we've burned through the whole scene in like 8 lines. So there's like that tiny moment of like, what? But it evolved into something completely different. We had this moment when he handed me the flag where we really like were connected. I could feel my character be so enamored that he was so helpful and that he knew everything.
The actual truth of the scene.
The truth of the scene.
Yeah.
And it felt to me like a moment in a rom-com where he hands me the flag and my hand lingers and we just share this moment. I'm like, you wouldn't believe how many flag stores I've been to in the last month.
Right.
Thank you for helping me sincerely. And he's like, oh, and I'm not just thanking you for the help here. Like my husband died 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So now it evolves into this rom-com.
Yeah, totally.
And it was so fun. And then it became an all play because then the other characters could come on and support this reality.
Did you make an active choice in that moment to like not do anything and just sit and wait? Or did it just happen so quickly that
it happened quickly.
Totally.
It just bubbled up. But
instincts just went like, oh, let's make something here. Let's fall in love or whatever.
Something had to happen.
Right.
Something did happen because I was in the moment. But in that very rapid microscopic crossroads, my instinct was fear or wondering or and I think like thank God my scene partner, my brain went to and my actual scene partner. Thank God that Ben was so connected and present.
What's a Ninurit flag? He could have just easily been like, "What? Huh? What?"
Yeah. Yeah, and we were connected in this scene in a way that like it felt like a trust fall where I was immediately caught.
I love that.
But I think my brain could have flipped onto the other train track where if I would have tried to wrestle it back to what I thought the game was, then I would ask for another obscure flag or something, and now we're in kind of a list. Game or I don't know what I was gonna do. I was like, well, what's funny? What And
the only reason you would even do that is because of like, oh, well, I have this safety net from before, and I could just try to recreate that because I know it sort of works.
Yeah,
or I could just like actually see what the next moment of life has.
And there's a moment in there where part of the main ingredient of the soup is like thinking that I'm supposed to, or thinking that I have to. It's like, well, am I dishonoring the game if I drop it? And it's like, well, we can find a new thing and there could be a greater game in this, and ultimately it's an organic scene. Because saying like, do you have the Ninurit flag is not a premise initiation.
And sometimes we don't really know the game of the scene until it ended. Like sometimes you are playing a game that you think is going to be the game of the scene, but the scene ends and you're like, oh, actually what we fell into ended up being this other thing that I'm so glad we ended up playing. Like, if you would have stuck to your guns of like what you thought the game was supposed to be, it probably wouldn't have been that beautiful, emotional human moment that it would have just been listing, like you're saying.
Totally. Like,
so interesting how that works. The supposed to is really fascinating to me.
Yeah. And I don't want that to be in there. And
but that's the challenge of playing game, I think, at all, is that once you teach that there is a game that you're supposed to play, everybody thinks that if you're not doing that, you're wrong. But really, you're kind of supposed to stumble upon the game, ideally. You're supposed to be doing something regular, and then something funny happens.
Right.
But you're not supposed to be just doing scenes about wacky stuff.
Yeah.
That's like a talent show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a
different.
Campground skit.
Yeah, it's like for camp. It's like, okay, kids, go do this really funny thing. Go, go, go.
Yeah.
And that just isn't, I don't mean it in a judgmental way. That just isn't quite what we do.
You hate camping.
I hate camp and children and camp counselors.
Wow.
No, just kidding.
Hot take.
Yeah, pretty hot. It's just fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question about the control stuff. So Do you feel like the letting go on stage and learning from that, do you feel like you're able to take that off stage and learn that same lesson as well? Or do you feel like they're different?
I don't know yet. That's the first time I've thought of that, or that so if I am learning that it's not conscious, I'll try to notice. I'll try to be aware. I think I'm not the best at like the unknown in life. Like I don't handle stress well.
Same.
I don't do well with wild cards,
Right.
Like I lost my fanny pack and was late to a doctor's appointment last week and started crying.
But this is what I think is so fascinating about
46
improvisers.
years old.
We are all like this. I don't know any improviser who has their life totally together and doesn't cry. Like we're very emotional, in touch with those emotional things, which I think is really great. And I think it's, I don't know, that's just really interesting to me that like you can be so accepting of whatever comes on stage. And then off stage, there's like this rigidity. Because I'm saying this for me.
Yeah.
When there's a rule of we all yes and, I'm the best yes-ander on earth. But the second that rule gets taken away and everybody doesn't yes and we start kind of like once arguing becomes a possibility, I become really difficult. But on stage, when arguing isn't really how it works, I am the easiest, most magnanimous. All I'm doing is trying to help make it work. You know what I mean? But then off stage, if it's like, but I know how this works, why aren't you guys listening? Like I can't keep the same freewheeling attitude on stage as off stage.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's really strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I'm so interested in that because like improvisers seem so freewheely and fun, but then off stage I find a lot of us to be a little bit more like sticky, rigid.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I like to have fun, but also like I work hard for my fun. Like I love things like camping where it's like there's a lot of like planning and packing and organizing so that I can go to the woods and go crazy for 3 days.
You're even like someone who likes to play games a lot.
Yeah.
You're like, here are the rules. Here's what we're all doing. Here's the thing. Like you've organized community-wide games. We used to play like Murder or Werewolf at your house, board game stuff. Something that I really enjoyed like learning from you was like that sense of play in improv. It's not just about like mapping out the idea, but like we used to do this exercise with you where you would shout out the name of a children's game that didn't exist.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that exercise.
And we would just all have to play it. Go like 4 fire hoses or something, and
I
it would
think
just.
I got that from Julie Brister. That's the first memory I have is her doing that at Sentimental Lady practices.
She's the best.
Yeah. So yeah, you shout out, go ahead, 4 fire hoses, 1, 2, 3, go, and everyone has to start playing the game.
Yes.
And it's a great exercise for immediate agreement and making a pattern.
Because every kid, which is what we've all been before, knows how to play.
Right.
And so it's like throwing you back into that energy where it's like, stop discussing the rules and just be a kid with an imagination, which is so much, I think, of what we do. And I feel like that really unlocked a thing in my brain because of like, you're not trying to impress anyone. You're just trying to play with your friends. And I feel like that's an underutilized thing that you're so good at is like teaching the playful element or the... Yeah, you have to play. I don't know. What do you think of play in improv?
I mean, it's the best. It's the best. And my favorite shows are the ones where there's less constraint on it. Like, I don't like a mono scene because I feel like it's like you get stuck in one thing for such a long time. And maybe that's my neurodivergence showing itself too, is like part of the fun for me is like, you can tag it to different places and your brain can work in different ways. And you can also make it like into a weird genre all of a sudden, or you can frame it inside of a commercial or whatever. It can just keep becoming new things. And the potential for creative play is so high.
Yes.
That like the creative aspect of improv is my favorite, where it's like, what if we went out into the audience now? Or like, what if we were all backstage and, the scene was like silent and now they hear us from backstage? Just that kind of stuff, like using things in a different way.
Totally.
I love when that happens.
Yes. Do you feel like that was, when did you start improvising?
lightly in high school. But not for real until just after college.
Did you feel like you got that like sense of like creativity and like, whoa, I can just really unload my mind here?
Not
when
at
do you
all.
think that started?
Late. Well, I guess at Boom there was a bunch of that, but that's like a short form context. I think I didn't start applying that lens to long form until like being on Herald Night with Sentimental Lady. Like doing group games with Sentimental Lady, I think unlocked that for me.
Yeah, you can't really, I don't think you can unlock that until you are with a group that commits to like playing really hard. You know, because there's a little bit of like we're chasing each other and being like, I know this isn't quite done, but we had a really good idea and we gotta go do it. Like, like that enthusiasm is a part of it, because sometimes it's like you can watch groups try to keep a scene alive and make sure it doesn't fail, rather than like, oh, I'm here to play with whatever is fun.
Yeah.
And you have that like aggressive attitude on stage, which I love.
I have an aggressive attitude on stage. Playful
you
attitude.
are passionate about the content and about the subject. And it's like I would say aggressive, not towards other people, but towards the idea, towards like, I'm not going to let a moment of silence happen on accident. Like it's going to be purposeful or not. Or like, you're so good at sense of urgency might be the word of like a good chef who's like, hey, we got to get these fucking meals out. People are waiting.
Cool.
And you do a good job. Like a Suzi Barrett show never has any like lulls, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Great. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't. I have a real gap of awareness, like self-awareness of like what I am. And
that doesn't surprise me because you're so in it. You know what I mean? Like you're so in it that I could see that you wouldn't also be watching it from the outside.
Yeah.
Like performing with you is so easy because I feel like you're so grounded and true to the thing that I'm like, well, I guess I have to. If I'm not, I look crazy. You know what I mean? So it's such a nice like touchstone to have in the scene that like, well, whatever I'm doing, if I look at Suzi, it will like remind me what to do because you're so like fastidious about it.
Cool.
Yeah, totally.
Fastidious.
Yeah.
A fastidious curmudgeon about my play.
Well, you're just like an A+ student who is also extremely creative. You're like an A+ student, but at art. You know what I mean? So it's like
what a
really,
Ryan.
yeah, of course. I think everybody thinks the world of you. Like as the host of this show, everybody in the community knows who you are. And I'm talking like New York, LA, Chicago, like you're a legend. You know what I mean? And as someone who came up under you, it was just, it's obvious. It's just very cool to watch, especially on Sentimental Lady. Like now I'm talking a lot, but like, you know,
please.
It's a team of like aggressive, loud dudes, not aggressive and like aggro, but just like fast brains who like to go. And like, I just remember being like, oh, Suzi's like the toughest person on this team and like the person to watch a little bit. Like, and everybody's great, not to take away anything, but it's cool.
You can say I'm better than Convoy.
I think so. Yeah. I think they should have had you as the last member. No, it's just very cool. Very cool to see you like hold your own in that way or something.
Cool.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially when back then it was like one woman on every team and it was like,
right.
Okay. Usually getting talked over and whatever, which I'm sure you still dealt with, but it didn't feel like that as much because you were like just out there and going harder at it than anybody was, which is so cool. Yeah. Like non-gendered, I guess.
Yeah. I think that was a result of that. Like,
having to?
Yeah. Like, okay, if I don't like wrestle the steering wheel away from these guys, like they're just going to keep driving this bus and I won't get like, there were many shows like I didn't feel like I was getting a word in edgewise. Yeah. Which is also why that plays into my mono scene thing. When we were doing Pretty Flower, it's pretty crowded to do a Pretty Flower with 7 people, especially when as much as we would talk off stage about like, you know, don't feel like all of us need to be in that headquarters scene. Like it can be 3 people at first and then people can enter and exit. Let's feel free to exit. Every time it was like all 7 of us and then do a pedal and then all 7 back in and even just physically it was crowded on that stage because that was when we had Saturday nights pre-pandemic and it was packed and people were sitting on the stage. And it was like
that your guys' shows were like consistently as good as they were and are for so long is like such a huge testament. It's so hard to do any good show with 7 people.
Yeah.
Like to me, 4 or 5 is the max for like a tight, good show.
And a show where it's easy to have some give and take and some more patient moments and where everybody feels like they get to have
match.
Right. Everybody gets to have a voice in the show. They're not just like an adjunct, tertiary part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in a Herald, it's like the 6 people who are in the scenes and then the other 2. You know, and like sometimes just any big show can feel like that. Of like, yeah, where were the scenes? Yeah, you were in there a lot and the other people weren't.
Right.
So, Sentimental Lady, one of my favorites. Are you guys still once a month?
Yeah, we're the last Friday of every month at UCB.
If you're in LA, folks, you got to see Sentimental Lady. The
Yeah,
legendary team. You guys were like the legendary team that I came up seeing. You know, like right when I started, you guys were sort of the vets. It was like you, Last Day of School, and then all the Herald teams. But it was like such a demarcation of different talent level. Like,
we really lucked out, like the placement of that, because also the team went through several iterations before I got put on it, and this just felt like a really magic combo from the jump.
Yeah, I feel like all improv teams have to be that, or else they just fall apart.
Yeah, there's got to be some level of chemistry and balance and mutual respect. We all really admire each other and think everyone's hilarious. And everybody has kind of their own specialty. It's like an Ocean's 11 a little bit. It's like Mel is so good at playing a silent animal. If there's a mention of a meerkat, he's like running into the audience to like pop up from behind a seat, you know?
And that's also like not everyone else's moves. So to know that he's the guy to fill that hole is like really nice.
Yeah.
You know, he's like a little sillier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. Every once in a while, like I'll text Joel Spence with like something that I've seen out in the world where I'm like, this sounds like a you specific, you know, like I'll see like a flyer for someone's business and it'll be like, you know, sprinkler analyst.
Yeah,
be like, this sounds like something you would endow yourself with in an improv scene.
Joel is so funny.
He's
he was
so
my
funny.
301 teacher and one of the best teachers I ever had. Like so good. He taught me this idea of like duck, duck, goose in a scene, like basically being like, it's too crazy. You need more duck and less goose.
Yep.
And I still use that note. That is the number one note I give in teaching is that like, hey, we all get it. You know the joke. You got to do more duck. Like you can't just keep saying fart bus, fart bus, fart bus.
It's
like
a great analogy.
you got to ride the bus for a while. Like what does it look like to just go duck, 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 goose. You know, like the fun is when goose comes, not how big you can make a goose.
Right.
You know?
Beck Drysdale, when Jurassic Park 2 came out, she was like, what a bummer, man. They misread what was cool about the first movie and they went, got it, more dinosaurs. And it's like, no, more suspense between the dinosaurs.
Yes.
That's what was cool about Jurassic Park. Watching the footsteps on the glass and not knowing if it was going to show up or not.
Any horror movie ever.
Yeah.
Watch any horror movie. It is not about the knife.
Right.
It's about, is someone here with a knife?
Right.
You know? And then once the knife comes, that scene is over.
Right.
You better get on to the next scene because once the person's dead, the camera cuts.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, that's, But that duck, duck, goose thing that he taught was like, oh, well, there's the whole basics of comedy.
Yeah.
If you can learn peekaboo and duck, duck, goose, like you can do any scene.
Yeah.
You know, it's really fascinating.
Yeah, learn it, then put it into practice, rewire your instinct so that you're not just like hungrily doing the joke as soon as you see that it's possible.
Right. Yeah, it's like tell jokes to your audience like they're a baby. Like go, hey, are you ready for a joke? Here we go. You have to take your time. You can't just go like,
yeah, walk them to it.
Yeah, totally.
I use the analogy when I teach premise that like we always want to set the table first before we pull the tablecloth away. Otherwise, it's not a magic trick.
Yep.
If you just start the scene by holding a tablecloth and going, ta-da, people are like, what? Okay, so you're holding a piece of fucking fabric. You got to like set the glasses, set the knives, set the fork, show them, and
how
then
you
whip
set
it away.
that table is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you just sort of throw it all on the table? Do you sort of do it pristine? Is it crystal? Is it glass? Is it plastic? Are we outside? Are we inside? You know?
Also, if we're building the world, what are the specifics?
Yes.
Have fun with that.
That is the whole scene, not the joke. The joke is like, remember that whole scene we set up? We subverted it.
Yeah.
But that's the fun, is all that stuff.
It's so fun, yeah.
Scene work is just...
I would say it makes the dream work.
That's a really... I've never heard that before. That's really good. Don't you feel like they could change the way that game is taught a little bit just to add a little bit more of the like, don't forget the first part. feel like everyone's
Yeah.
like, punchlines, say the crazy thing, and then it never works.
It's been a while since I've taught at UCB, and so like my familiarity with the
Sure.
exact curriculum is too distant to.
Yeah.
But I think that I benefited from like coming to UCB later in my improv life.
Yes.
So I already had all of that other stuff in play. And then this like gave me the goose. I had duck. I had too much duck.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
What does that look like to learn just the duck? Because I started at UCB and you are introduced to the game immediately.
Yeah.
Before you're introduced to actually how to live in a scene.
Right. My first long form training, my first improv training. I mean, like can we back up just to give context to this? So like in high school, I had awareness of like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Obsessed with Comedy Central when I was from like 8th grade, I think is when it launched on TV. And I obsessively watched it through high school and was obsessed with, obviously, since a kid, obsessed with SNL. And then when Whose Line hit the airwaves, I was like, oh, this is amazing. What is this? When I was a sophomore in high school, they opened a second city in Detroit, which is like, a 30-minute drive from my hometown. And my theater director, I was like in theater club and doing all the plays and stuff. And he was really plugged into that. He loved like the Whose Line and SNL. He was like, we're doing a field trip to this. So we went and saw the show there. Sketch comedy, but with an improv set at the end. And I was over the moon. Wow. Oh my God, we're seeing people do this in real life. And they're people who are from right near where I'm from.
Right.
That kind of blew things open for me.
Totally.
Like, wait, I don't just have to be this mysterious British person on this weird show that looks like it was filmed years ago but is now arriving here.
Right.
I could just be me and get to do this. So we, asked our director, can we play those games at theater club? Of course, he like brought like a book of theater games and we would do them, here and there at theater club meetings if we had time at the end or whatever. And he saw like how obsessed I was, and kudos to Frank Gollin. And I went to his retirement party last summer and thanked him for this. Truly changed the course of my life. He
Amazing.
kept me after one day and was like, hey, I just got this book that I think you should read. And he handed me a copy of Truth in Comedy by Sharna Halpern. And I went home and read it in one sitting. And, the book is all about the Herald and about I.O. And, it immediately put improv and I.O. and long form just on my mental map and sounded so cool. And I read it in one sitting and then got out my 5-year plan in my notebook and like redrafted it and was like, okay, now it's not just go to theater school, go move to New York or LA. Now it's go to theater school, move right to Chicago and learn how to go to I.O. and learn how to do long form improv and do improv. That like opened that door.
Right.
So that's what I did. I did 4 years of theater school at Western Michigan, which was like halfway between Detroit and Chicago. So I was able to go there on weekends sometimes, go to Chicago and see I.O. shows and see Second City shows. And this other company called Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind. That's incredible. They would do, they were called they were the neo-futurists, and the show was called Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind. The cost of a ticket was $1 plus the roll of a 6-sided die. So somewhere between $2 and $7, but you got to like roll the die at the door, and it was like very exciting.
How fun.
Their show was 30 plays in 60 minutes, and they would have a clothesline hanging above the performance space with pieces of like 8.5 by 11 paper. Each one had a number on it, and they were all clothespined in order. And they would set the timer at 60 minutes, and they would say go, and the audience would shout out a number, and they'd be like, great, I heard 17. They would jump up and grab number 17, and they would say, this play is called Rotational Device. And then they would do this little like 1-minute weird play that they had pre-written and rehearsed. Okay. And then they would say like, curtain. And then people would shout out numbers again. And so and the rule was if they got through all 30 plays in 60 minutes. Then they ordered pizzas for the whole audience, and everybody stayed and had a pizza party. It was
amazing.
the coolest thing I've ever seen, and just truly talented actors and writers, and the spirit of play. And anyway, so all of that was like baked into my college experience, and Second City was mind blowing. At the time, it was like,
how old were you when you went to second? It was college.
this
when
was
you got started.
college, yeah. Second City main stage. This is when I was like 19, 20.
I'm sure just mind expanding, exploding.
Yes.
Chicago, fun.
And it was Rachel Dratch and Kevin Dorff and Stephanie Weir, and just like the best people.
Right.
Sue Gillen, Rich Tallarico, just doing like the highest level of this work, and then the best improv sets. And it just like
That's so cool.
filled my engine with so much gas. You don't put gas in an engine. It filled my tank with so much
Which
gas.
then puts it in the engine. Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay. So it's okay. So we skipped a few steps and went right to the engine.
Yeah.
I was just on fire about getting to Chicago and studying this stuff. And then, like 2 weeks after college graduation, got in my station wagon and went and started IO and Second City. And I ended up dropping out. I did like the first 2 levels of the Second City Conservatory. There's like a conservatory where if you have like previous acting experience or whatever, you have to audition to get in. It's not like a huge lofty process, but it's like I had come out of
Speed up a little bit. And
I had come out of enough theater school that it's like, okay, you don't have to be in this class with people who are doing on a stage for the first time, you know?
Right.
But my issue with the Second City classes was that it still did feel a little bit like we're spending an hour and a half talking about the minutia of object work for the benefit of these people who are like lawyers and whatever, and have gone through all the A through E or whatever to get to this. Like people being like, well, how was I supposed to know that he was handing me a beer bottle? And I'm going like, because you're
supposed to try
putting try. He mimed taking a bottle cap off and said, want a cold one, and handed it to you, and then you like acted like it was like a jump rope or something. It's like it was, that stuff was driving me crazy, and I was busting my ass waiting tables at Rainforest Cafe to like scrape together the money to do these classes, and I was like,
at Rainforest Cafe. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Years of my life in that building.
Perfectly sad. Not sad, but like just in a movie, you're like, it's almost too broad. It's like, oh, you work at the Rainforest Cafe.
It's 100% like scenes from Broad City.
Yes.
Like me refilling iced tea for businessmen while a gorilla pounds its chest and they're trying to have this serious contract meeting. And it's like, well, I think though that we should keep Exxon in mind for the, you know, or like,
incredible.
Yeah, I have so many stories from that place. I will say, amazing wait staff. Like it was like 80 people on the wait staff. Just a giant staff.
Oh, I'm sure.
And everyone was so fun, and there were so many funny, smart people that I worked with.
Right.
The managers were really cool. It felt like a little bit more Clerks than The Office.
That's
it felt
cool.
like we were kind of, you know, we had the keys to the joint. And those idiots, you know.
Yeah, like it is like who applies at Rainforest Cafe and who applies at the Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if it brings different whatever.
Well, it's a constant premise factory. I didn't realize that that's what it was at the time. I didn't have that vocabulary for it. But you would go, it was very like, you know, that style of comedy that's like upstairs, downstairs. It's like you go out on the floor and you're like on your best behavior, and you have to be this tactful person. Like, okay, ma'am, you had a question? Yeah, is that rain real? And then you go, no, it's not. But it's, you know, if you're scared, we can let you know when the 20 minutes, you know, and then you go backstage into the kitchen. You're like, listen to what this idiot just said. So we were constantly coming backstage to the kitchen with all these tales from our tables, you know.
That's fun.
Valentine's Day, people were ordering like red wine with sweet and low and a straw. That was a common order.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Red wine with sweet and low and a straw.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, that was the clientele.
Sweet wine. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
For Valentine's Day, yeah. If you're taking your date to Rainforest Cafe, that's the refinement level, and God bless. And it's like, you want to give them the best date, and you want to it's like, of course, I'll bring you extra sweet and low. Would you like some to take home?
Yeah, what do I care? Drink
What
your
do I
wine how
care?
you
It's
want.
not my money.
Yeah.
All of that is to say that I wasn't Mr. Moneybags, and I had to start being really judicious about and realistic about how many classes I could afford.
Yes.
And it was like, okay, I can't do both programs anymore. I have to choose one. And it felt like I was getting more out of IO, partially because the classes felt more advanced to me, or more angled towards people who really were meant to be improvisers, and not just people who were like, I'm a lawyer who needs to be more confident in my public speaking.
Mm-hmm. You're saying IO is more improv than Second City at the time.
Yes, in their classes at least at the time. Yeah, right. Second City, I think because as a brand, it had so much awareness among the basic people of the world.
Right.
It became this magnet for regular folks who wanted to learn some of these skills. Whereas IO was much more niche, and if you knew about it, you were kind of in the know about improv.
Yes.
And the stuff they were doing was less accessible to the masses. It was like purely heralds and long form shows. Second City was like social commentary in the form of palatable sketches that are very polished and done in a suit and tie. And then a little mini short form set at the end. So anyway, I narrowed my money and my focus to IO. And that training, I felt, was very much like all duck and no goose. It was like, if goose shows up, it's by accident. And that's great and that's fine. It's okay to have a laugh show up. But what you are here to do is live in the skin of a character, support your scene partner, and make their character look purposeful and good, and then figure out how these two people interact in this world together, and build out the universe and explore other branches of that tree, and then see how the team's mind can bring it together or say something greater, and maybe theme the whole thing. And is this a show about lost love? And if so, how do we explore lost love in a more tangential sense? Maybe you lose the love that was meant to be your career, and that kind of stuff.
Sounds really hard, really ethereal, because it's there are so many options, but I don't quite understand how they all.
I think it's
connect.
hard to do it successfully.
Yeah,
I think it's easy to try it, or to get into that swimming pool.
Right.
I think it's easy to be in the classes and be like, okay, yeah, we're going to all do sound and movement for 10 minutes.
Sure.
And then see what happens. And then ask if we felt a group mind,
Do you feel like really funny people that go through there are just doing that, or they're going I hear what you're saying, and then I'm still just going to be funny on top of it?
I think funny people can't help but be funny.
Yeah.
They're always going to be funny. Anywhere. I think IO was good for kind of knocking the stand-up bug out of people, where it's you can't push an agenda or you won't.
You gotta do theater.
Yeah. Yeah. We're here to do kind of serious theater that's also funny.
Yeah, interesting.
But funny because it's the truth of the moment, and not funny because you have a tight five about pizza toppings that you kind of came in with.
Right.
You could tell when people were kind of trying their shtick, and it was not rewarded there and not applauded. It was very and also my teachers were off the charts in terms of just the top level of this art form.
Right.
Geniuses. TJ Jagodowski, Craig Kakowski, Bob Dassey, Noah Gregoropoulos, Miles Stroth, Liz Allen, and then Susan Messing subbed 2 of my classes. Wow. And I learned more in those 2 classes than all of it. But
so funny how a magnet place like that can bring such genius brains and then also make them, but it's interesting. It's probably that those people were really smart in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure. How much is chicken and how much is egg? How much is people being made that way? How much is being unlocked? How much is the the form kind of allows for genius to develop. I'm not sure.
That's a good question for you. Do you feel like, are you the same person that came into improv that you are now? Like, did you come in sort of as an artist and ready to do this stuff and like you found a thing that fit your personality naturally? Or do you think that you found this thing and then were like, oh, I got to become that? Not that it has to be a binary, but
I think I was always this way, or this, like, whatever improv unlocks in me, like, is like the core of my soul.
yeah, it was already in there and improv unlocked it rather than like, I'm going to go become
Improv
like that.
was like the pond where my frog could finally swim. It's like a frog can exist on land, but it's not very fun, and it doesn't. You don't really feel like the fullness of your frogness until you're in the water, going like, yeah, and I can breathe under here.
I can do both.
I can do both.
Yeah,
and this is what makes me want to croak with all my friends. And when there's no water, I'm not singing, and my friends aren't around, and it's a little boring. And yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah, I feel like improv animates the center of my soul and like radiates my me out of me. It's like the place where I have like all my colors, all my paints, all my tools, all my, and like I can exist without it, but it's just not, there's no life to it.
Totally.
I really felt that very, very acutely during COVID. I literally felt like I was dried up, and I used that's where that frog analogy came into my mind. I went for a walk with a friend who's not an improviser, and I was talking about how much I was struggling with improv being on. She's like, oh, really? Like, do you miss like the social interaction? Can you still have that over Zoom? And do you miss the audience? And I was like, it just feels like my planet has dried up.
Right.
I'm alive. I'm sitting on a log or on dry mud, but it's the pond is gone.
Totally.
You know?
Right. Yeah, that's fascinating.
I that caused such a depression in me and such a like a feeling of all the lights going out. It was honestly like really shook me because it was like on a very like a metaphysical level. It was way beyond just, oh, I derive pleasure from this and satisfaction in a social life. It was like, no, the core of who I am is plugged in when it's in this environment, whether it's in a class or a show, whether there's an audience or not. It's regardless, doing improv puts the lights on in the house. And if it's not there, nobody's home. Yeah.
Have you thought any at all about like what part of it especially is so important or brings the light or whatever?
I think it's like a synthesis of all of it's like using every part of my creativity, my ideas, what I find funny, making connections like between disparate things. It's like what I love about puzzles mixed with what I love about social interaction, mixed with the comedic lens through which I process the world. And all of that put in a blender and then shot out through a quantum cannon of creativity where it's like, okay, here's a hologram of all that stuff. And it's you. And your thumbprint is now overlapping with all these other unique thumbprints. It feels very divine. It feels very
100%.
like meta consciousness, you know. If there is a Godhead, it's present when we are doing this thing. And you cannot grab it or rope it in or describe it. It's that. Yeah.
I really think it is like the most beautiful art form because it is the thing that is closest to our like human experience. Like in real life, you can't go backwards and you don't know what's going to happen next. You can't plan it. You can't write it. You're just always improvising. That's just what life is. You wake up and it's today. And then you wake up tomorrow and it's today. And you're just always in the now.
Yeah.
And I think that improv is the only thing that I know of, maybe sports is close, that like replicates the true nature of our life. That it's just like there will always be the next moment and there will never be a chance to fix the past. So it's like it's the only thing that actually brings us into that being present like life is. You know what I mean? Like it's meditative and it's creative and it does feel like you're saying like you get to just like open up the floodgates and everything gets to come out. To me,
Yeah.
it feels like the place where life can live the most. There's no no's. Everything is a yes. Everything
Yeah.
is allowed. And I think that's fantastic.
And an
fascinating.
audience is watching you discover something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was talking about this with my girlfriend the other day, that like if we use cooking as a metaphor, that like eating an amazing Michelin star meal is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine if you could buy a seat in the kitchen while a bunch of Michelin chefs are pitching ideas and trying them out on plates and going, oh, wait, hand me that strawberry. What if I scorched it with this? Now dip it in that like mixture that you made. Here. And you're watching them light each other up at the speed of their own ideas and watching them come up with the combinations that have never been tried before. And then they're handing you the spoon and you get to be a part of it.
Right.
And also you get to be like, hey, do that again, but can you use that pine branch? And they go,
Yeah, totally.
And they go, okay, yeah. Like,
And then they wipe it in the trash 10 times per meal and start over.
yeah.
And they go like, did you like that one? It's
Right.
gone. Let's do another one because we're brave enough to think that we can do the same exact thing with completely different materials,
New
completely
ingredients.
different foods and ingredients.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now shout out something else out. Okay, squid guts. Ooh, okay. Oh.
Normally I would never, but
Yeah.
totally.
And
That's
that's-
such a good analogy.
And that's what we're doing. And that, like, I think that's why the art form is so exciting for an audience too, is like, you are in the writer's room. You are in the test kitchen. What you're watching is not the dialogue.
Yep.
What you're watching is not the play. Sure, a scene is happening. That's
Yes.
funny. But the real show that you're watching is the like subtle energy shifts between the performers and knowing that you are watching an idea hit someone's brain and light them up. And then you're watching them act on that idea and try to pull it off and try to convey it to someone else.
Totally.
And now you're watching the idea chemically react with their reaction and change in real time. So it's
And when's the last time you spent any time going and just watching?
yeah.
And just going, what is this? Like, that is so rare in our lives
Yeah.
for anybody to be that present as we need to be as improvisers or as the audience. You know, I'm going to go to this place tonight with no idea what's going to happen. And I'm just really going to wait and see. I will never do that for any other thing. I have no idea what this restaurant is. They won't tell me what the meals are going to be. They won't, but I think we should go.
I think we should go.
I don't know that. I've been burned too many times in my life doing things that I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
And so I think, like you said, like we all just set up patterns that are comfortable for ourselves and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
improv is like the total throwing of all of that into the trash and going like, let's see what happens when we use our full brains, hearts, and guts, like in the moment, and be present.
we trust each other.
Yes.
I know that this group of chefs is gonna have fun making something. We're gonna find something to do with those squid guts. And if it's delicious, holy shit, we invented a new
Yes.
dish. And if it's terrible, oh my god, we're gonna laugh because we just ate
Right.
squid guts together.
And you're like,
remember
whoops,
that?
you burned that part. This is now charred. You know,
Yeah,
it's
we're
like
gonna
we
make a
meant to. We
meal
meant
out
to
of
do
it,
it that
yeah.
way. Now it's an accent rather than the main piece, or
Right.
you know, like, yeah, that the idea that nothing is ever finished or really begun in improv is
Yeah.
so beautiful to me. It's like, as is the world, right? It's like there is no start or end. It just is always sort of in this continuing reimagination of itself, sort of.
Yeah,
And
because it's
improv is so
not.
cool
We're
in that
not
way.
serving up something that's chiseled in stone.
Right.
We're not selling a script. We are selling the idea of watching the pitch meeting. For part 2 of this episode, go to yesalso.supercast.com. If you like this podcast and you want double the content, head over to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe. You can also help us out for free by subscribing to us on YouTube and talking us up to your improv communities. If you have a question that you'd like us to answer in one of our Q&A episodes, or a topic that you think would make a great bonus episode, put it in a 5-star review. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A very special thanks to our producer, Ryan Rosenberg, audio and video editor, Brian Kessler, and social media czar, Britt, Faye. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Susie. That's not how podcasts work. They won't even see us. They will listen to us. So it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.